Welcome to Business Unveiled Podcast. This is the place where we help overwhelmed, time-starved entrepreneurs like you make the profitable shifts to get more done and get more out of life. I'm your host, Angela Profit, award-winning 8-figure entrepreneur and CEO. And in every episode of Business Unveiled, I'm bringing you conversations that will give you the expertise and strategies that will scale your team and business so you can get shit done. That's GSD in our world. So get your time back and grow a business that helps you be present in your life. Let's do this, y'all. Hey, y'all, it's Angela. I'm back for another episode of Business Unveiled. I'm so excited to talk to our guest today because when I got back from this amazing experience that this brand and this property put on for luxury wedding and event planners, I was completely blown away. It's like probably one of my very favorite that I've ever been to. And I've been on a lot of trips. So we're going to talk about that today and share some of the behind the scenes. So if you don't have on flip-flops and shorts and a hat, like put that on and come to the beach with us. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Angela, so good to see you. And this is awesome. It's great to reconnect.
Yay. I'm so excited. We're not sitting on the beach together, but it's all good in the future, right? But we were. And, not too long ago. And so before we jump off and talk about where we were in the whole experience, give us a little bit of background on who's Chris, how'd you get into hospitality, and how'd you end up in the position that you're in right now?
Sure. It's just kind of a fun story. I grew up in the hospitality industry. One of my family members was involved in hotels, and I was going to school to be a teacher studying history. Thought I would go into law school and eventually become a lawyer. And started parking cars in college. Yeah, so I did like valet, front of the house, and then worked my way through the operations. And one day someone approached me and said, you're wasting your talents in the operation. You should join us on the sales side of things. And the rest is kind of history. I've been moving around. My career's, landed me in some amazing destinations. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I've been on the East Coast, the Bay Area, out to Hawaii multiple times. And now, my most recent role was with the Waldorf Astoria here in Las Vegas. So I still get to call Las Vegas home, but I get the extreme privilege to now represent the Conrad Punta de Mita from home in Vegas. And it's really rough. I have to spend half my time in the destination and half my time home office. So somebody has to do it, and it's just lucky to be me.
It sounds so exhausting. And okay, if you're watching this, like whenever y'all first reached out, which you reached out through he's my travel husband, and we just gotten off the trip together, and he's like, there's this thing in Punta Mita, and I really think that you should come and see it and like get some footage of it. We can like do some TikToks. I just think it would be really good. Like there's a spot open. Are you available? And I'm like, Punta Mita? What's that? And I'm pretty well traveled, and we've done a lot of weddings, like in islands in the Caribbean and Mexico. And I'm like Googling it, right? But when your travel husband says you got to come, it doesn't really matter what Google says, right? Because it's all about the relationship. Right. And so I'm like, well, I asked my assistant, and she's like, well, we'd have to move this and move that, but like, we can make it work. I'm like, okay, then we're going to make it work. And then on top of that, I got like, the formal invite, and they're like, you can bring a +1. And I'm like, what? I don't ever bring +1. I don't have a +1, but usually I'll bring like, my assistant or one of our team members, but that's rarely offered from any brand or any resort to now, if you don't travel a lot, guys, I know it seems super luxurious, but it's still work to like pack and go through all the travel stuff. And, it's not a tough life, but oftentimes we're the ones taking care of everything. And so it was so nice to actually be treated like an actual guest. And it was done so freaking well, but we're going to jump into that. But I want to know, even before the event, can you share a little bit about Conrad, the brand. I know for me, it's kind of a newer brand because the first time we worked with Conrad was just a handful of years ago for a huge entrepreneur organization event. And people call us a little high maintenance. I'm like, we know what we want. How is that high maintenance? And we're good communicators. Like we run businesses. But I'm like, if this hotel can nail it, and if they can nail this group of 500 plus executives from around the world, I'm pretty sure they could pull off a luxury wedding. And that was in DC. And that was just a few months before. So when Brian told me it's the Conrad in Punta Mita, it's much more private than, he's like, it's not like a Cancun or a Cabo or Playa del Carmen. And he's like, just move your schedule and come. And he's like, I'm bringing my best friend. And he's like, but you can bring a plus one. I'm like, well, you would be my plus one. So it's all good. So everything was just done so well, but I would love to know from your perspective, like how was the idea born, and what collaboration took place to like get it going on the behind the scenes of it?
Sure, sure. Well, thank goodness for your work husband, right? For cluing you in, because it was awesome to have you. But the Conrad brand is a luxury brand within the Hilton family, right? And within Latin America, we were the first to come alive. We opened the hotel in September of 2020, probably the worst time in the history of the world, not even just our industry, to try to open a resort. But we did it, right? And one of the things that we saw, not just with Conrad and Punta de Mita, but overall, like with our collection of hotels, is that one of the things that continued on was weddings, right? Corporate events, it was very easy to say, hey, if this date doesn't work due to the pandemic or whatever, but to tell a bride that your date has to move, or that we have to cancel, or they had to cancel, like the thought was that love continues on, right? And these weddings were so important, not only to our success as a hotel, but also just to keep that relationship alive with these couples, because it was heartbreaking, with the pandemic and these shifts of all the different rules and regulations in the different destinations. So one of the things that, when we thought about this, it was kind of, we knew that this market segment was going to continue on, right? Love is going to conquer all, right? And so that was really the starting point, right? And so when we started thinking about it, we said, well, we want to be sure that we showcase the resort and its full capabilities, but also culturally too, that we're diverse, right? That we're open to, multiple cultures, LGBTQ, whatever it may be. And so we kept thinking, and then we said, this really should act like a wedding. And so that's where the plus one concept came on, right? Because, again, traveling, you travel a lot, I travel a lot, being away from your spouse or your plus one is difficult, right? And so we were like, if this is really going to be a wedding, let's include those people and really throw a party that's going to be memorable, right? And so that's where it kind of started. And then we kind of continued to brainstorm, and the invite came out as the general manager's wedding. And that's where, it all kind of, the think tank opened up wide, and we really got creative as a team of how we could really have some fun with the event.
Let me just give you like an overview, like a snapshot, y'all. So first off, get on an airplane, you go, and then you get there and it's like everything was super smooth. The airport was nice. It was clean. It was a part of an area of Mexico I'd never been to. Again, I'd never even heard of it. And that matters, when people land. And then you all took care of the transportation. It was very comfortable. Everyone was very not only polite, but it's just like they're trained well. Like from every single thing, from the person opening the door to putting your luggage in, getting you there. And then, there were every day y'all had a theme. And I think one of my favorite things ever was it was almost kind of like a Pinterest board that Brian sent me. And he's like, here, this is all the stuff you need to pack. And I'm like, damn, this is kind of a lot for, I think, like 3.5 days. But I'm like, but I love the concept. And then I loved it even more when I got there. But I'm like, this is so well organized and everything was thought through. And it's like, my God, it actually inspired me. I came home, my team, they're like, oh dear God, what did you learn this time? What are we changing now? But it's like, one of the most common questions we get as a planner is what should I wear, especially if it's an outdoor wedding. And so I'm like, what if, we did like inspiration boards and start putting them on our brides' websites, which we don't do a ton anymore, just because I like to be on the education side of, bringing people together. And so we're selective. We work with a certain number of people who want to do destination, but then we also have gotten into like executive travel. And I think from a perspective of like being an EO member and then working with people who have very high expectations and then working with the luxury brides, like the way you all literally married it all together, especially like the diversity. I mean, one day a theme was Jewish. And so at the wedding where we were guests, it's like instead of like having and it was a cute little ceremony. And I loved all the little outfit changes and everything. It was so fun. But y'all explained it. And there were planners there, like high-end luxury planners that had never done a Jewish wedding before. They'd never done an Indian wedding before. They had never done an LGBTQ wedding before. And so it was so cool to like experience that with them being like, oh my God, I had no clue. And it also, like, I just feel like leveled up that Sierra song, level up, level up. Like that's something. It really like it took the education to the next level. And I think for people, and I'm specifically talking about the plus ones, just because I had a lot of conversations with people, like wedding planning in our area of the world and design isn't taken as serious as it's getting better. It's getting better. But it's like a luxury. It's not like needed, right? But actually these days, like it kind of is needed. But the way that everything was explained, the plus ones were like, holy cow, like there's so many different, not only to the look and the colors, but the education and knowing like some of the men, they were like, what are these hats? Like the keep for the Jewish part. And the weather was perfect. And that was something else you can always count on. But it was like the whole everything that was done, like with the barat and the Indian ceremony, and then the reception and like the wow factor and the smoke machines and then the pool party with the floats. That was the best. I mean, we've never ever done anything like that for a client. And every planner, most of us had not done that before. And we're like, we could sell this any day. And then, of course, it was all over social media. And not only was it all over social media, but from a marketing perspective, again, the way you guys did it was so amazing because you told us exactly what you wanted. I go to conferences and sometimes, I mean, I'm paid to speak and be there. And I'm like, well, do you want me to do a video? What hashtag do I use? Who do I tag? What are all I mean, it's like you guys had I don't want to call it like a brochure, but it was like a booklet of like all the people's pictures and like our bios and what the F we do. And like, it was and then Jennifer sent me the digital copy because of course I'm like, I want the digital copy. But it was just every event was so well thought out. And on top of that, the team and the staff and the experiences and the vendors and the partners, I did not have one negative or bad experience at all. Like, and I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you. I mean, I kind of notice everything, because we want that. Yeah. But that's why it's so important I think, to go to the brand and go to the hotel.
Yeah. And I think, there's so many beautiful parts of the world and so many beautiful resorts, but it's really the people that make a difference, right? And so for us to provide an environment for our team members to shine, and really, we shared the overarching concepts, but then we let the operation shine, right? Hey, here's our goals and here's our plan. What are your thoughts? And we had them buy in. And when you have total buy-in, it just adds to the success of the event. And we really, going back to the itineraries and, the outfits and, all of that, like we wanted to really, for some people, this might've been the first travel coming out of the pandemic. So we really wanted to just take the thinking out of it and really provide something, again, that was educational, but it had to have some fun. And I think we accomplished that.
Oh my gosh. Well, and also too, it was not like your typical like conference. And I don't even think the word conference was attached to it, right?
Not at all.
I mean, it wasn't. You all had a theme, and the theme and the brand of the theme was carried out everywhere throughout. And again, it was done everything was done so tastefully. And then again, it was like a 3-day wedding, y'all. And so it's like we did activities and then we rotated. And then it's like you have a perception in your head. At least I do. I mean, I think everybody does. And when there's holes and there's gaps, you make shit up because you want to complete the story. But it's
Right,
like
right.
all the activities, I'm like, okay, there's an activity in the spa. So I'm probably going to get like a 20-minute chair massage. That'll be great. No, it wasn't like that at all. The coolest experience of the local culture and how you all really embrace the local culture. And like, again, not only did you make everybody shine. And that's the culture is so different. It's one thing to make a bride shine on her wedding day. Like every bride should feel like a princess. But when everybody's not on the same page from a culture perspective of the positivity and the yeses, and then they'll go behind the scenes and they'll be like, okay, they're asking for this. What exactly does that mean? It's like behind the scenes, as a planner, we get those funny questions sometimes, but it was just it was done so well. And then again, having like the GM, renewing everything and all the makeup and the hair and the outfits. And you all kind of treated us like bridesmaids almost, with like the bags being delivered, like every little detail was done so well. So from a Conrad and from like a company culture, specifically in Punta Mita, like the Conrad, y'all, it's a great brand. It's a great luxury brand. But the company culture was the same in DC as it was there. Cause how you'll go to one place or like one Ritz-Carlton, you can go to every Ritz-Carlton usually, and it's pretty consistent because they have a great training program. Not every place does. And it was very consistent. And these people were so happy. And oh my God, my favorite part, y'all, is when you actually invited all of the employees to like be part of like the dancing. So they were like party motivators.
Yeah,
And then they were
yeah.
introduced as like kind of like we would introduce a wedding party into to the band or whatever, which was like the final night after the Indian ceremony, after the Indian ceremony. And it was just though you could just tell how happy those people were to like be at work, right?
Right,
And so,
right.
talk to us a little bit about like what's the secret sauce of like, not that you're going to give away our secrets, but like how is it the culture in that part of Mexico and the people are just like that? Or is it something that's more, a combination of, internal processes that really help the foundation of the culture there, like locally?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit of both. And kudos to our general manager, Marco Tabit, and he's such a good sport, right? So we brought him the idea and we said, hey, you're the guest, you're the host, right? And okay, and he's thinking I'm going to get married once, and it's like, no, you're going to get multiple times. And by the way, Daniela, your wife has to buy in too. And so the two of them, they really did embrace it. And Marco's wife, she is such a good sport. She comes from the industry. She was in the events background, so she understood the goals of the event, and she jumped right in and helped us out. So kudos to those two, because it was a lot, right? Like she was getting her henna and multiple things and multiple gowns, and she was just a great sport. So anyway, as it pertains to the team members, I think again, just it is a little bit of culture. The Mexican culture, specifically in that part of Mexico, is very welcoming. You hear the term "mi casa, su casa," my house, your house, but we elevate that a little bit. So it is very friendly. I like to say, when a server even presents a plate in a restaurant, you almost see them hover to see if you enjoy it, because it's as if they cooked it themselves. They want to see that gratification, and if not, they're going to make it right immediately. And so you have that, and then again, you get that buy-in on the type of event that we're having, and because it is so inclusive, and you're touching so much cultures, including the Mexican culture, they were just totally bought in and had a lot of fun with it, and to see it pay off and to see you guys with your smiles, I think that is their currency, right? So when they get invited into the ballroom and to be celebrated and see how spectacular it turned out at the end of the week, and all the smiles and all the questions and all the assistance they provided you, that's the secret sauce, right? And so now they ask me, because like I said, I spent half my time there. typically the first or second question I get is, when's the next event? Who's coming in? What weddings are they? Did they participate in crazy little thing called love? So it's cool. They're bought in, right? And they're part of the team, and they're in the operation, but they're part of the sales and marketing team, because without them, we can't have success in delivering these types of events.
And that is one thing that I really, really want to highlight, because we had events that were supposed to happen in 2020 that we just did, like recently, like right before I came. And we had great relationships with these two sales managers. And we've worked with these girls for over a decade. And wherever they go, which one of them goes like every 2 to 3 years and opens up a new hotel, we go and the business goes, because she's amazing. But after COVID, the labor became a problem, and I didn't realize it until I was in it. In fact, I wasn't even there. I was at a party, a Christmas party, because it was a Christmas event, and my team was there. And my team lead was like, Angela, it's a sit down dinner, 6 courses, Italian family, and 3 servers showed up. We had 22 tables of 10. Yeah. And I'm like, well, first off, I didn't even get the message or the Marco Polo till hours later. But this is, again,
it's
we're
probably
training.
a good thing, actually.
It is training, because you know what? She stepped up, she took care of it. But the biggest problem, and this was a brand new hotel, and they're a great brand, but they didn't think through the whole load-in situation with events going up and down. They had one back elevator. It was a shit show in the back end. And so I was like, oh my God, we always do a wrap meeting at the end. I'm like, is it going to be this way, especially for destination weddings? In my head, I'm thinking like, oh my God, it's going to be hard to, I ask different questions now when you go through a pandemic that you've never been through before. It's like, okay, are you sure? And if all your servers have COVID and call out, what's your backup plan? Who's the staffing company? Like, these are the questions you have to think about now. But going there, and I mean, I talk to people. I talk to the wall. I just ask them, I'm like, are you happy? How long have you been here? Like, how long have you worked at the brand? Or what Conrad did you come from? Or what Hilton property did I was shocked at how many people were really local. And like they had been there for a long time, or they had been with the Hilton brand for a long time, or they've been with another Conrad. So it's like every single person had some type of a story that was 5+ years, every person. So that just goes to tell you that it's like you get 1 or 2 great people, they bring their friends. And usually their friends are
Totally
a lot like them, so I'm like, the culture here, it's so good. And the destination things that I've been on, like for conferences and stuff, labor is a little bit of a concern everywhere. It's a worldwide issue right now, but it didn't seem to be an issue at all. Not at Conrad.
No, we're very lucky, like where we are in our part of the world, like we don't have the same labor issues that we're seeing, in other parts of the world. And again, I was in Vegas before, and it was a challenge, running a luxury resort with less staff. It's just, the customer expectation is up there when you're driving these luxury brands. And, fortunate for us, the destination really is rooted in luxury, with our competitors that have been in the market for quite some time. And so when you open a new resort, obviously that's the shiny new toy, and then you have to worry about retention, right? And I think that starts at the top with the culture that Marco, the general manager, and the division heads are leading, is that, we've even had some team members, come and then leave for other resorts and then ask to come back.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a sign of we're doing something right. And again, it starts with the leadership at the top, and we're just driving that culture of really a family environment, and it is luxury driven, and it's a fun place to be. We enjoy working with each other. We enjoy showcasing the resort, and just based on site inspections and things that we do, and try to be unique, special, and different. When you get their buy-in, it just translates to success. So. And
again, I love how you all incorporate everybody. So let's talk about the property a little bit, because it's like you guys do buyouts. And so for people that like, first off, let me just back up. The diversity and the training for the Jewish, the Indian, the LGBTQ, everything was executed so well. And not only was it something that was talked about, that like, Brian and I talk all the time, it was actually done and done the right way. And again, that goes back to training, but that was amazing, like how you all did that. And then I just want to highlight like the decor, because there's this little stigma. I think that's the right word in our industry, that if you do a hotel
Sure.
wedding, it's cookie cutter and everything looks the same and it's all packaged and the chicken tastes like rubber. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
So
Of
it's
course.
like,
Of course.
that is not at all a concern there. And not only are you all selling things and selling an idea and selling something culturally that's very different, being able to not pull it off, which is what happened to us at that Christmas wedding. It wasn't it wasn't her fault. It was no one's fault. It's how you react and it's how you communicate. And that's where, you got to have people jump in and doing things. But I don't know. It was just, I'm like, can we go back? Sitting here thinking
Let's
about,
go back right now.
I'm like, can we just go back? And then y'all, when we were leaving, it's like the next big thing coming up was Tulum, because you all have something, going on in Tulum too. Conrad does. But I also want to highlight the relationships and the connections that were made with like the planners, like from all the different
Right.
places. Like I'm on a two group text with people. I mean, one of them has over 35 people in it. I think Brian started it. And like we still group text and about different things. Like the other Sunday, somebody was like, where can I get really cool, like these pool floats that were at, in Punta Mita at Conrad.
Right.
And so Brian's like, oh, check this out. Angela has a pink cell phone float. So it's just, everybody is still like, going back and talking about it. And so give us a little bit of perspective on like, because I know some people, they hear Indian wedding and they're like, oh my God, that's like 1,000 people. And then, but I mean, the rooms and the facilities and the property, the way it's laid out is done so well logistically, because it's not too big, but it's not too small. And there's enough restaurants. And so tell us a little bit about like just
Sure.
you know, that part of it, so that people know conceptually what we're talking about numbers.
Sure. Sure. So the resort itself, going back to the kind of the destination, we're the largest. Currently, we're the largest luxury resort in the destination. So 323 guest rooms with 59 suites, and that's our biggest strength and our greatest weakness, right? Because we need to fill more rooms than our competitors do. But at the same time, we're able to offer something unique to you and your clients, right? So we've done weddings that are 3-day buyouts all the way down to like 10 people that are looking to do something intimate. And to your point of how the resort is laid out is, there's a main building and then 9 casas that work their way down to the ocean front. And so, we can do some really special things for smaller weddings where we can do buyouts of those individual casas. So, you may have a collection of 5 or 6 rooms in multiple buildings, but that's your family, your friends, your wedding party. So you kind of have your own, bubble, if you will, within the resort. And again, we do also have those where, and primarily we see that in Mexican culture weddings, where they want to buy the whole place out and they throw 3-day parties that are just nonstop with their, where we can explore and extend noise curfews, because again, they're not disturbing anyone but their own guests. And it's crazy. It's a lot of fun. So that's a little bit about the resort. In regards to your question or your point about, how we hit those different cultures, it was really important for us to nail that and not just fake it. So we reached out to really like industry leading subject matter experts in each of those areas and had them come in and not only educate our staff, but we did have some other sister hotels as well as you guys come through and learn from some of the best in the industry. And they helped us orchestrate those events. They were like helping us architect, what part of the resort and what are the things that we really have to nail. And I think it came off very well and authentic. And that was the goal, right? And, going back to how we invited all of you and how we continue to engage with you, we didn't do it the traditional route with like an email. We did it through social media. And I think when we did that, it did kind of help, marriage, if you will, everybody, right? Because we were seeing each other in a different way. We were connecting on Instagram and I could see, we could connect on Instagram. I can see how you live your life and things that you do and find common interests differently through social media. And it's amazing like how that chat continued even on after after everybody departed. And I think when we were all done, we realized this was quickly going to become a legacy event for Hilton. And knowing that we
Yes.
were opening a new Conrad in Tulum, they immediately had their hand up of like, we want to be the next host. So I think they're working through that now to be the next host for a crazy little thing called Love Part 2.
Well, and like again, it's just it was just it was so well done. And then on social media, people in our industry, they're like, how do you go to these things? Like, how do you
Right.
get to do these things? And I'm like, well, first off, let's not compare your today to my today. I'm like, I'm in my 40s. I've worked for 20 years, retired out, and said I'm just going to do like B2B consulting and like keep our life cycle clients and then like the executive travel and leisure travel, just because when I'm speaking at these conferences and all over the world, connecting with entrepreneurs, like you can't even imagine some of the experiences sometimes and some of it's
Oh
culture,
yeah.
but like you learn a lot. And then it's like if you don't share that with anybody, what good is it doing? And what was so cool about those planners, and I don't know strategically how you all chose what, but it's like you got to have some pre-qualification, right? You can't be in business for 2
Mhm.
years, never done a damn destination wedding, never been out of the country, you don't have a freaking passport, but you want to be a destination planner and come to a luxury event. Who are you going to sell to? Who are you going to talk to? Do you have an audience?
Right.
It's just like, and I love that people are asking the questions, like the go-getters, the hustlers. And I'm like, in weddings in America, like you got to put your blood, sweat, and tears in. And how some of these girls walk into the luxury market is they do an internship. And
Yep.
then, and if they do a great job and they are genuinely passionate about people, you can't fake that. You can't teach that. I can teach a lot of stuff, but I can't teach people how to love people and how to have empathy. And when someone is complaining or screaming or cussing at you, you don't know what happened to them that morning. It may have nothing to do with you. You just happen to be the victim in front of them at the moment. And I learned that from working in a mental hospital as a therapist. And so I always try to,
Hmm.
teach the people around us, like, you don't just fall into these things. Like you got to work for it. And I think social media is a great tool. But if someone said to you, like, how do you get to these events? Like, what would your answer be? Because we get it
Well,
all
there
the
was
time.
yeah, there was definitely some serious FOMO via social media, right? So,
Yeah.
um, when we had some of the industry leading, destination wedding planners, that was the goal, right? In partnership with some media. So we did have some media join us as well.
Yep.
So when you combine, those heavy hitters in the destination weddings market and the media, and people start seeing, these posts and these reels and all these things happening on social media, they're like, I want to be there, which was awesome because that was the goal, right? And so honestly, I think for us, like in order to participate in the event, it is to be someone that has experience in this space, that has a connection to the clientele that's looking at a luxury destination wedding, and people like yourself that are doing podcasts and blogs, like that's important because it was an awareness piece, right? To have someone come down and really experience it, that has a connection to the right customer base, and that also can help be that megaphone and share our story. That's what we were looking for.
And and you brought the right people together that naturally clicked because we had that experience, and then we were able to talk about it and appreciate it so much more because you don't get that everywhere. And I will say it's just the way my schedule worked out, but I stayed an extra day. And so how sometimes when you go into an event and like and I'm finding this more frequently all over the world, where staffing companies are plopping people into these brands and moving them around. They don't know what's going on, but they'll bring in their team for like a luxury wedding. But then you stay at the hotel, wedding's over, but then you get like shit service. Like I'm just being real here. Like
Uh,
it's just different, right? So the whole extra day, and then I had dinner with media team and some of your team members, and it was all women, and we're all like, like very you can just tell like big personality. We had the best time. But the chef came out, and what you were saying, like when they put the food down in front of us, because it was like the normal restaurant food, it wasn't the special event food, and like
right.
how was this going to be, right? but it was all, so just experiencing the restaurant is like, 7 of us sitting there for dinner. It was still consistent. The presentation was amazing. We couldn't stop videoing. And I was like, can we like turn up the lights a little bit? I know it's like 9 o'clock at night and they were like, yeah. I was like, I just want to get a little bit. And then the girls were like, oh, let me just shine my iPhone flashlight on there. And then that, everyone jumped in, which means everyone's proactive and everyone wants to help. And it was just, you still got that same experience, when the event was over. So I do want you to know that. And then for, and again, just the going back to the stigma of selling something and then actually being able to execute it. Some of the vendors and the partners that they're all local, and y'all, like, they're not doing like chair cover, the stigma of, oh, the hotels don't have it. When you work with partners like that who are so creative and out of the box and so on top of trends, I would, again, for an island, I was just like, wow, this was amazing. It really was. What what did y'all do ahead of time, like with your vendor partners to like create all this stuff? Like, what did y'all do ahead of time to research like the trends of what you thought was going to happen, coming out of COVID? Because y'all nailed it. I mean, you really freaking nailed it. It was amazing.
Thank you.
So, what were
Uh,
those discussions
yeah,
like?
I think, going back to, the planning that you saw as it pertained to like what outfits to wear and all of that. So as we were piecing things together, and for me, I was able to bring my plus one too, so my wife came. So it was awesome to be able to showcase, what I do in the resort and the destination, all that. And she actually has a background in weddings, so for her, she was even more excited. But I think for me, like the event that I knew, like, because you have anxiety going into it, right? You have multi-day event, these amazing plans, but that opening night reception, the white party on the beach, and just seeing the level of decor that went into that, that's when I like all anxiety went away because we nailed it.
It was amazing.
And we can talk about the specific event itself, but I think for me, going to our partners and explaining the thought, right? Like, listen, we know weddings is going to continue to live on. We have a huge opportunity with the weddings market, and really be a true partner. And how can you help us? And this is our thought of like how we want to design the event and how can you add that extra value to it. And they bought in too, right? Because again, if they're a key partner of ours and we're doing these big weddings, they're going to be a part of it. And so it was really easy, honestly, to have them see the vision that we did, because again, this market segment is weddings is so important to our success. So again, just sharing the basic idea with them, and then getting their buy-in on how they could help design the events was great. But that opening night reception and the white party on the beach, and it's funny, we went into a pre-planning like the day before, like you would for a big wedding, right? And so we had the entire team there, and we're kind of going day by day, meal period by meal period, event by event. And at the end of night one, I said, hey, where are the fireworks? And they're like, oh, we didn't budget fireworks. I said, consider it budgeted, because we're gonna end this thing the right way. We're gonna kick it off the right way. And so we pulled the fireworks together at the last minute, but it was just such a fun event. And we had the fishermen come in with the fresh catch and meet chef, and then sharing a beer, and then that's the cuisine we were having on the open fire that night. And it was just so fun. It was just so much fun and a great way to kick it off. I think everyone was like, okay, now I get it. I get what we're trying to accomplish here, just off night one. So it was a lot of fun.
It was so there's like a really funny story about that. Well, first off, again, the decor, y'all, there were teepees, there were these rugs all over. It was like, which a lot of the people that work there say, like, it's like walking into a living room, like welcoming people.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful. And again, the pictures and the drone shot, everything looks amazing because you all told people what inspiration of things to wear, so it didn't look like this
Right.
hodgepodge of just the it was just every little thing. Okay, but two things. So the fireworks were flipping amazing. And I mean, come on, we see fireworks all the time. Every client does it. the longer it is, the more it costs, like, all, but and, and also too, like on some of these islands, the very first time I ordered fireworks from an island, I'm not going to say where it was, and the amount of US dollars we paid for it and the little box they brought, I was like, that's the firework where I live. There's like 10 pallets, and I'm a little confused and I'm a little worried. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, everybody will be drunk. They'll never remember. I'm like, but I have to ask these questions, right? Like if I'm paying you X amount of dollars for a 30-second firework display, what exactly does that look like? And because for that event, y'all, I mean, it was blown out of the water. And the fact that you did it last minute, like kudos, like that's amazing. But the next day,
Insider tip on fireworks. Insider tip on fireworks.
tell us.
So pay for 5 minutes and shoot them off in 2. So the whole thing is just a grand finale the whole time. And that's really what we wanted to do. Is to your point, like we see fireworks all the time, but we're on the beach, we're outdoors, we're in Mexico. The weather is exceptional. We've just had probably a few margaritas and ate some great, things. And the dance floor was just jamming the whole time. So we almost was like, we didn't want to stop the party, but at the end of the day, it was time, right? So yeah, we used 5 minutes and shot them in 2, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
I think we were up till 4 a.m. and Brian and I, mainly Brian, walking around with the Zool tequila because that's my favorite, and the bottle, not just the tequila. It was amazing. So funny story. So the next day I'm talking and I'm like, I use this app Marco Polo, and I'm like Marco Polo, and Brian's listening, and I'm like, and oh my gosh, I'm like, these fishermen caught this fish, and right in the middle of the party, they just walked right through the party with the fish, and then they like cooked it. And it was just, I loved like that local feeling like that. That was so cool. And Brian's like, Angela, are you stupid? Like that was all play. He's like, that it wasn't just a boat came up with but they did catch it that day. And he's like, that just, no. And I don't know why I made that up in my head, right? But that's how local I was getting. I was like, wow, that was just perfect timing. I think I had a little bit too much to drink. And then the next day.
No, it means it worked. It worked.
Well, and also to the next day, it was like everything was planned out perfectly. And again, it makes sense because you had luxury helping you guys. It's like, go to the experts. But when you go to those conferences or a wedding where it's like so effing jam packed, and it's like, you don't even have time to like pee or text, check your email or whatever. And so the amount of like free time or the optional thing on the last day of like going into town and stuff, I thought was really amazing because you got to go and like experience that. But then we didn't have to think about what activities we wanted to go do. Like, it was enough free time and choices, but not too much to where it's like, damn, we're planners. Like we have to make these decisions all day, every day for people. Like, I don't want to do it for myself. Like that's how I feel. But it's like, but then we're control freaks because if we don't control it and communicate, then our experience sucks. So it's like, not a win-win situation. But y'all did everything was just done naturally. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think too, like you're all busy too, right? You have your events and stuff that you also at the same time, when you're out of office, the world doesn't stop. And so, when we're putting together the agenda, some people may need that, extra hour to check email. The other people were like, hey, I want to go lay by the pool, or I want to, do this activity, or I want to get off property. So we really did try to, think about all of that when we were putting together the agenda. So I'm glad you appreciated that.
We did the funnest things. Like, so there was Bollywood dancing, and the way that it was done, y'all, is it was like leading up to the Indian wedding. And then they played some fun songs, and it was so cute. And of course, I'm like videoing all this because it was like they wanted to get everybody on the dance floor, and we rotated. So I think it was like 30 minutes of like a great workout and like learning 3 Bollywood dances, and they were easy, and most people got up and they participated. And so it was just, that was so fun. And then there was a yarn thing. I can't remember the local name for it, but it was like these sticks.
Yeah, the eye of God. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the lady was telling us that when a new baby, is born, they like make these symbols so that it like protect, I'm not a history person at all, and I'm not a geography person, but local culture and like learning those little things, I love that stuff. And it's meaningful. Like it means something. And every
Yeah.
little thing that was given to us, I mean, we get so much swag stuff, you know. It's like I didn't want to leave anything. Like I wanted to take everything and I wanted to take pictures of everything and I wanted to tell everybody. And I'm just like, it was so much fun. But every single person that was there provided value. Every every
Hmm.
person. There was nothing. I mean, things happen behind the scenes, I'm sure. But again, it's how you all train your people and you preach and then you actually do it. Which is really two
Hmm.
two different things. So one other topic I want to talk two things, weather and golf course. So talk about the
Sure.
weather because people think Caribbean, Mexico, and the weather could not be any more different than like a Cancun, a Playa del Carmen, a Cabo, or Pinta Mita. So talk to us about that.
Sure, sure. Weather-wise, so just to give everyone an understanding of where we sit, so we're just about 40-minute drive from Puerto Vallarta. So you'd be flying into Puerto Vallarta is the airport. PVR is the airport code, and we're just 40 minutes north. So we're on the Pacific side of Mexico, and it is very green jungle. We like to say where the jungle meets the sea. So you have a bit of humidity, but really peak season is anytime in the first quarter all the way through to, I would say, June. And then again, September through the back half of the year. We do get a little bit of a rainy season over the summer months, but again, it's very predictable of when it's going to happen. But it's beautiful. I mean, we get a nice breeze. The humidity, for the most part, stays pretty low. I mean, we were there at a great time of year. The weather was exceptional. So yeah, that's a bit about where the location of the hotel is, and from a weather standpoint. You did mention golf, and so the hotel is within BB2 community, which has a golf course, Higuera Golf Course. It's under new ownership, and it's gone through massive investment and improvements. And like I'm there every few weeks, and every time I go, the course has already made massive improvements. So they've redone the clubhouse, they've added new refreshment stations. It is like an all-inclusive type golf experience. So your food and beverage is included in your round of golf. And the course is playing extremely well. I'm a golfer, so I appreciate that. And seeing those improvements go a long way. They're looking to open a golf academy and really take it to the next level. I think their aspirational target is to be one of the top 10 resort courses in all of Mexico. So yeah, so we're very lucky to have that partner right there in our community.
Because I mean, it's right across the street. So I'm like obsessed with flying the drone. And but like I don't get excited unless the camera goes up in the air and then I'm like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." And it doesn't happen everywhere. Like I have that expectation and I build it up in my head. Because what happens in some of these places in the Caribbean and some of these beach places we work is that little area is really great, but then you go up aerial and it's like the poverty and just it's so sad, right? And some people have to drive past that. It wasn't like that. Like here, everything is super smooth. It's lush. It's beautiful. And like every single night and every single day, I couldn't stop flying the drone. And then at the end of the trip, my team member was like, "You have over 3 hours of drone footage in 3 days." It's just like, were you changing your batteries and your SD cards? And I'm like, well, I bought a bigger SD card, thank God. And yeah, I had to change the batteries to run down quickly. And so, but to say that is like the wind was like just the right breeze coming off the beach, but it wasn't too windy to where like I was just in Portugal and I could not fly. It wouldn't go up. Like the app was telling me and it was beeping, but it's just too windy there. And it was like that every night. And so the wind factor and when we were there, it was like the weather was perfect. It was just perfect timing. And the sunsets are so relaxing and so beautiful. Like how that resort is positioned and the way that it's built and the way that it's done. Every little thing is really top notch. It really is. So if somebody wants to learn more about Conrad and Punta Mita. Well, first off, you guys need to like go through the blog because we have a lot of content and pictures and videos and like behind the scene videos of like, this is what I experienced as a planner. So like other planners who do destination events, like, they'll watch it and they know that I'm real and I'm not going to like make it up because it will come back and haunt me, because people will go somewhere and they're like, well, you said this was blah, 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 blah. And that's happened a little bit pre-COVID to now. And I'm like, listen, there's a lot of changes in hospitality that are good, but then some that are not so good when it comes to pre and post. And so I think it's important to understand for travel and destination weddings. And you said it a few minutes ago, where sometimes for people, this is their first trip post COVID. And some of these people, they're going to a wedding and knowing that like Conrad and Punta Mita took all the precautions. Everything was super clean, like overly clean, like very clean. Every little detail, because that matters. And again, I started at the airport for a reason because there's some airports, I've flown into even during COVID, before it was really bad. Like I was still traveling and doing some consulting, and Mexico had not quite gotten there yet, like it was like months behind what was happening in the US, at least in the South. But my gosh, it was like night and day within like a 2-month turnaround from where I had been there. And then this was when I could still fly and like we weren't shut down. And like I get there and it's like, all these things were put into place very quickly. And the Conrad has sustained it. Like, how it's like, oh, forget this. And things are going, it wasn't like that at all. Everything was very clean. And I tell people, I'm like, if you have any questions about it, like just ask me. And now I'm going to say, like, go listen to the podcast and like, go watch all of these things because if you're a planner or if you do executive travel or destination or luxury, but really events, like any type of event, like you guys can pull it off and you do the smaller intimate things. I love that you guys have 50, you should say 59 suites.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. Not many hotels have that many suites when we're bringing in like VIPs, wedding party, it grows very quickly. So it's just good to know, that you guys can do that and really make the experience amazing, from the time they land, from the time that they leave. It's really amazing what you guys have done. Have you,
Thank you.
last question, I swear. You've
Sure.
probably done so many marketing campaigns in your career. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
was this like a one of a kind where it's like you guys were again like throwing it out, but you also brought in the experts, so you knew it was going to be good? Like, like was this one of the most like fun? Like, what was your experience? Just what in all the campaigns you've done? Like, was this one of the ones that was just different, or it's like, oh no, we do shit like this all the time? I don't know.
No. It's interesting. Like, I think like destination wedding planners are constantly looking for the new, and we check both those boxes, right? It's a new destination for the most part for most people that were invited, and it's a new brand, right? And so it's something unique, special, and different that you can offer your clients that they may not be aware of, and that's why they go to people like you and wedding planners, because they're seeking advice of where can I pull off the wedding of my dreams, and that was the goal. But to your question about, is this something we do all the time? Absolutely not. And I think this market with weddings is so specific that we knew we had to do something different. You've all been to these conferences and seminars and meetings and events. We do all these things where we go and we sit in a ballroom and we listen to someone talk. And we knew that's not what we wanted to do. We needed to have you actively experience the resort as a wedding guest. And that was the concept to start. We knew we needed you to have a little bit of education, but to have it be well done and fun, and not just, again, we're sitting in a ballroom listening to a speaker and half of the people are on their iPhone checking their email. That's not what we were looking to accomplish. We wanted you to come and experience it as a guest and what your clients would experience. And that was the goal. And I think we did a great job in doing so.
You did. And you broke out the little niche brand. And I mean, you guys have your own Instagram account. Like, So
Yeah.
I loved that because that's how super hyper specific of like the community, that's being built. So we'll link it in the show notes, like the links to, where to look at everything. I did like a bunch of room tours and
Oh, great.
that's just what I love to do. It's like I'm so visual that, and then we have people that want to read everything, which, you have to do the detailed part of it too. But I'm just so visual. I'm like, okay, if I were a planner or a bride, like these are the things that I would want to see. And again, getting the aerial footage and seeing like on the left and the right and in the front, there's a beautiful golf course. Like it was just the whole landscape. It was just, it's such a special property. Like so, 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 so
Thank you.
special. Like we'll be back. Like Brad and I were talking this morning
Yeah,
about
I
it.
hope so. I hope so. I mean, I want to welcome you back anytime you're ready. So please take me up on that. And I don't just say that as lip service, but it is an open invitation to have you come back. And again, ConradPuntaDeMita.com is our vanity website. I think we've done an exceptional job of creating a sense of place on the website. Obviously, nothing can match the exact experience of being there, but we have done a lot of virtual tours, multiple, guest rooms and meeting space venues, as well as our outlets and our F&B offerings. So I encourage you, and anyone that has questions to check out the vanity website. And then cpmweddings.com, at Instagram. That's a great Instagram account. I know you're going to link it all, but, that's a great resource for you guys too, just to see some of the fun stuff we've done, and that we're going to continue to do with the weddings market.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
So cool. And if you're watching or listening, thank you so much for tuning in to Business Unveiled. Be sure to tune in next week to another episode. Bye, y'all. That's it for this week's episode of Business Unveiled. Now that you have all the tools that you need to conquer the world and GSD, get shit done, would you share this with your friends and fellow business leaders? One thing that would really, really help us and help new listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a comment in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in and listen to Business Unveiled. You can check out the show notes at angelaprofit.com/podcast and link up with us on social media so you can share your biggest insights. And I want to know your aha moments. Until next week, remember, the profitable shifts and structures you're creating in your business help you be more present in your life. So get out there and GSD.